Guys, in this next news story, a British beautician is reportedly facing up to 60 years behind bars in the United States after allegedly smuggling £3.5 million worth of coke in suitcases from Mexico. Kim Hall, who's 28 years old, was stopped at Chicago's O'Hare Airport, where she was due to get a connecting flight home to Manchester. Over in the US, Homeland Security investigators detained her after reportedly discovering 43 kilos of coke packed into two suitcases. But Miss Hall claimed two men forced her to smuggle the drugs after offering her a free trip to Cancun and threatening her once she arrived. A family back home in the UK say the only thing she's guilty of is being naive. Her father said she had met the men who claimed they were property developers on an earlier trip to Portugal. He says they invited her to stay with them and then they offered her a free holiday in Mexico. But after her trip to Cancun, the men allegedly coerced her into taking two suitcases home. She claims that they had packed the bags and that she thought contained $250,000 in cash. Her father said she's not a drug smuggler. She was told it would be money she was carrying. They got her phone and threatened her family, and that's why she did it. She'd been to Portugal with a friend and met people over there who contacted her when she was back saying they were into real estate in Mexico and she could go over there for a free holiday. Her friend declined, but she said she would go. She's never been in trouble, nothing at all. She's had a good upbringing and has always worked for her money. The only thing she's guilty of is being very naive. Ms. Hall from Middlesbrough was charged with unlawful possession of a controlled substance and possession with intent to deliver following her arrest back in August. The sheer volume of drugs seized means the 28-year-old finds herself facing one of the harshest sentences, which typically carry between 15 to 60 years in prison. She's now being held in Chicago and is awaiting trial, which would commence a year from now. Her family are believed to have forked out a lot of money for a local attorney, and they say that they're distressed about her physical and mental well-being. Father said for the first few weeks you couldn't speak to her. You don't understand why they're threatening me with it. That's as much as we get out of her. She's petrified. Without a shadow of a doubt, she's forced into carrying this stuff back. And I'm not just saying that to try and protect my daughter. I'm telling you as a father who knows his daughter inside out. So it's believed her next court appearance at the Cook County Court is going to be happening on November the 13th. So guys, this story resembles the story, I don't know if you remember, around about 10, 11 years ago. There was the Peru too, and they were two women from the UK who were arrested in the Peruvian capital of Lima on suspicion of drug smuggling, Michaela and Melissa. So they were picked up at the Jorge Chavez International Airport with 12 kilos of coke in their luggage. They'd actually flown from Ibiza in Spain where they'd been holidaying, and McCollum and Reed maintained that they had been pressured into carrying the drugs by an armed gang, but later pleaded guilty. They were both sentenced to 6 years and 8 months in prison and trained as beauticians whilst being detained in Peru before eventually being released and returning to the UK in 2016. Now, the Cook County Jail where Hall is being held has held several infamous criminals, including people like Al Capone. And the conditions in that prison are dire. You've had people protesting about the conditions in the past, with some inmates having no access to soap and are restricted in taking any exercise. And a coalition of former prisoners' relatives and current inmates and advocates say the inmates' First Amendment rights are being violated daily as they are not allowed to worship the way they choose. But the Cook County Sheriff's Office described the claims made by the groups as baseless. They said that the facility is considered a model across the country for safety, adding that inmates are provided many critical services, including mental health provisions and the essentials of soap and balanced nutritional meals. And in this next news story, a great Yarmouth man who murdered a man by stabbing him in the chest in revenge for an earlier attack has been jailed for life. Junior Suleiman, who's 21, appeared at Norwich Crown Court for sentencing following a trial in August where a jury found him guilty of murdering 23-year-old Felizardo Jose Vieira Bolde. He's been sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 23 years. There's another man, Yamis Santos, and another, Vitor Silva, were also jailed after pleading guilty to assisting an offender. Santos sentenced to 2 years and 7 months, and Silva was sentenced to 2 years. Police were called on Wednesday, the 8th of February 2023, At around 12:43 in the afternoon, when a member of the public called 999 reporting that Felizardo Jose Vieira Balde was lying in an alleyway in Great Yarmouth. A murder investigation was launched with a Home Office post-mortem examination, finding the cause of death with a stab wound to the chest. During the trial, the court heard how Suleiman blamed Vieira Balde for a previous altercation in which Suleiman was injured. CCTV was recovered, capturing the murder. Footage showed Suleiman entering a shop on St. Peter's Road prior to the stabbing in the company of another man. This man was later identified as Suleiman's uncle, James Antonio Santos. As Suleiman exited the shop, he spotted Felizardo Jose Vieira Balde walking past. Suleiman was then seen to remove a large knife from his bag, approaching the victim and stabbing him once in the chest. Both Suleiman and Santos fled the scene after the attack, and later CCTV showed them appearing to have changed their clothing to evade police detection as they left a complex of flats at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The pair were tracked across the country, initially fleeing to London, where another associate, Vita Silva, helped them to travel to an address in Cambridge. Police tracked them to London and then Leeds City bus station, where they were arrested on board a bus. After sentencing, Norfolk Police's Detective Inspector Dave McCormack, who led the murder investigation, said Suleiman arrived at the scene of the crime, prepared to commit the most serious act of violence. Felizardo was a young man with a bright future, loved by his family and community, and his family have shown great resilience while waiting for the sentencing result today. I again offer my deepest condolences to them and friends for their loss. Suleiman and his uncle James Santos, aided by a friend, Vita Silva, moved across the country intent on evading capture in full knowledge of the crime they had committed. Fast-paced police inquiries identified their location at several points in several counties, and investigators worked with specialist officers in several different police areas, providing extremely short notice to provide an armed response until they were eventually apprehended on a bus intent on travelling to the north of the country. I just want to say rest in peace to the victim, and my condolences go out to his family. Now, I just want to go back to that first story. Nobody's going to give you anything for free in life. You know, in that story, the woman, she got offered a holiday to Cancun free of charge, but people will always want something back in return. Remember that. And also, when you're traveling, never ever take anything for anybody else in your luggage. You just don't know what they're putting in. Friends, family, whoever it is, just don't take that risk. It's not worth it. I've had a lot of fallouts with people asking me to take their stuff or bring stuff back, and I've always told them, do it yourself. Get cargo, shipping, whatever you want to do. Don't ask me, because I ain't going to take it. But once again, big respect going out to each and every one of you. There's a couple of stories coming out from the streets of the UK. If you already haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel, and please give this video a little like. It's your boy GT. Keep it locked, keep it real.